So I've been telling you for a week or so that this lesson is coming, and it's finally here. Today we're talking about writing things in standard form. Writing things in standard form is that weird way to write equations where our x and our y are on the same side of the equal sign. And we've done a little bit of practice. You guys are pretty good at this. We just need to refine those steps a little bit and actually give those steps some names. So when we're writing things in standard form, or when I'm taking things from standard form into slope-intercept form, which is just saying into y equals form, the first thing I want to do is I want to move my x, or move the x, by either adding or subtracting. So if I look at number 1, I have this 2x. I can draw my line if I want to. I need to move that 2x. I'm going to move it by doing the opposite. So the opposite of 2x is a negative 2x. It is huge here that when I'm moving that, when I'm subtracting, then I make sure that I'm not combining my x and that 3, because I have a constant and then separately I have a variable. I have to make sure that those stay separate. When I write these, I'm always going to write my x first, just because it helps keep me in slope-intercept form. This is really clear that this is my slope and this is my y-intercept. Y equals negative 2x plus 3. The instructions say that it wants us to identify the slope and the y-intercept for each problem. So for some of you that would prefer, that would automatically write it like y equals 3 minus 2x, that's fine, as long as we clearly know that that 2, or in this case it's actually a negative 2, is my slope, and that 3 is my y-intercept. Let's try number 2, and then we're going to do one more together, and then I'm going to turn you loose, because this one has a few more steps. I want to move my x, so I'm going to subtract it. I'm going to do negative 4x. So I have 5y equals negative 4x and a negative 30. My last step when I am working on standard form is to divide by the y coefficient. So sometimes you'll hear me say the y number. The actual vocab word is that y coefficient. So I'm going to take here and I'm going to divide by 5. And sometimes it's super tempting to do something like this, dividing by 5. But that doesn't simplify very prettily. So instead, we're going to say, I'm going to do negative 4 divided by 5. I'm going to do negative 30 divided by 5. This just leaves me with y. Y equals a negative 30 divided by negative 5 simplifies perfectly into a positive 6. But this, my negative 4/5, does not simplify. So I'm going to leave it negative 4 over 5x. When I'm looking at my slope is at negative 4/5. My y-intercept is that 6. So something that I want to make sure that we talk about. I want to make sure to simplify all of my fractions. That's any fraction, not just the fractions that come out to a perfect whole number like negative 30 divided by negative 5, but any fraction. If I get 2 over 8, I have to turn it into 1 over 4. If I get 5 over 15. I have to turn it into 1/3. Here is where we tend to make a few mistakes. It's problems like number 4. And this is on, or something super similar to this was on your test. So I'm going to move my x. And I'm left with a negative y equals negative x minus 8. This negative got left off a ton on your test. Your guys' math was perfect, but I left off that negative, and it screwed me up for the rest of the time. If I have a negative y, that's really like saying negative 1. So I have to divide by my y coefficient, which is dividing everything by negative 1. That's a 7. Let's try a 1. Y equals negative x divided by negative 1 is going to give me positive x. Negative 8 divided by negative 1 is going to give me a positive 8. So my slope is my number attached to that x, which is an imaginary 1. My y-intercept is that 8. I'm going to turn you guys loose. I'm going to walk around and check you. I may or may not put an answer key out as well. But let's get to work.